I started rowing my freshman year of college. I kind of just stumbled upon it. I've always been athletic and part of sports teams because I love being part of a group like that. And when I went to college, I went to a Division III school here in the States, and I just wanted to continue to be part of a team. And so I was initially going to look to see if I could be on the basketball team, but then because I'm relatively tall and athletic looking, was picked out by the rowing coach who was like, you should try rowing. And so I did. And it turns out it was a great decision. I made my first team in 2010 and then won 5 world championships and 2 Olympics, and attended 4 Olympics in all between 2010 and most recently Paris 2024. So London 2012 was my first gold medal. Rio 2016 was my second. Then I was in Tokyo, and again, Paris. After the Tokyo Olympics, I had actually really thought that I was retired. Moved out to the West Coast and kind of knew that I needed to start the rest of my life, so to speak. I had been in elite athletics or athletics of some sort since essentially my freshman year of college, and I had had no real quote unquote work experience and needed to kind of start to branch out into the real world, and came out here and had to make the incredibly difficult transition from elite sport to living in the non-elite athletic world. And then on top of that, try and find a job where someone of my age who has 0 work experience on their resume, and get someone to hire you, which proves to be incredibly challenging. Everybody who knows elite athletes is like, oh, you're so hireable and you would make a great addition to any team, which is great. And you hear that a lot, but you need the person or the organization that's willing to take the risk and hire you, even though you have not a lot of the potentially the hard skills or the experience. The soft skills and the intangibles that you bring as an elite athlete will pay off in the end. So Andy reached out to me via LinkedIn and kind of introduced the ACT organization to me, and asked if I wanted to do an informational call. And at this point, I had been applying to jobs for months with no luck, no success, and was really getting frustrated and kind of discouraged by it and thinking, am I ever going to find a job? Who's going to hire me? So I set up a call with Andy, and he told me all about ACT, and I was like, wow, this is a pretty amazing organization. And so that's how I got started with it. He and everybody else at ACT really held my hand through the whole process. I'd never applied, I'd never negotiated details of a contract. I had never, interviewed at a big company before in my entire life, but they were right there every step of the way helping me. And they were, even when it came to like negotiating my salary, he was like, okay, this is good. You could ask for this, like all things that I wouldn't have thought of because I didn't have the experience in it. And so it was wonderful. I'm incredibly grateful for it. I wasn't training. When I started at Equinix, I had thought that I was done. So I didn't really have to balance it. I balanced it with my normal everyday schedule, like any other normal person would. But I did not have my eyes set on Paris. It wasn't until probably a year with Equinix that I was piqued my interest again to start training again. And so when I did start training, I immediately went to my supervisor and my boss and talked to them about it, and had told them that Equinix was my priority, and that my career was the most important thing to me at this juncture, but that I wanted to see if I could do both. And they were hugely supportive of that. My supervisor took a vested interest and she got to know rowing so well. She actually came to the Olympics to watch me row, which was amazing. And so it was hard because there are days when you're exhausted and you have to work, but it's also helpful because it provides more structure to your day. So you're not constantly only thinking about or obsessing about your sport, whether it was a good day, a good practice, or a bad practice, or it's a good mental break from constantly thinking about the sport. And so I found it, for the most part, was great. Obviously, some of the days when I was extraordinarily tired were a little bit harder, but it's you get through them like you get through anything else. And I think especially being at Equinix, and the support that they showed me, and the grace that they gave me, made it possible for me to do it. It's incredibly challenging. It's a huge part of your identity. Sport, I had been doing, again, like I've been doing this sport since I was a freshman in college. And for 3/4 of my career, it was all I did. I didn't work. So who Meghan was outside of the sport of rowing, I didn't even know, like, what do I like to do outside of rowing and working out? And like, from a professional perspective, what do I have interest in? And then replicating the feeling that you get when you're training, is something that doesn't ever happen. And so you have to kind of get used to that and wrap your head around, like, you're not going to be able to replicate the feeling of crossing the finish line first, or replicate the feeling of being in a room that's kind of alive with energy of your teammates, striving towards this goal that very few people in the world do. Like, you literally cannot understand it unless you have done it yourself. It's an incredibly consuming goal, and transitioning away from it and learning to identify, like, what makes me tick? What do I like to do? What direction do I want to take the next chapter of my life is hard. You're, at least for me personally, you often grieve the loss of it, because it is a big loss in my life. A big chapter of my book has closed. I've never officially announced my retirement. It's not something I think I will ever do. I'm just not comfortable saying it out loud or putting it out there, and that's okay, because everybody's different. Some people like to, go on social media and announce that they're done, and that's how they work through it. And so it's an incredibly individual time of your life, where you handle it is an incredibly personal. How you handle it is an incredibly personal decision. I work with a therapist who helps me out a lot, and helps challenge thoughts that I have, or give me different viewpoints on certain things, which is always helpful. It's kind of the support of others that helps you get through it. You wake up one day and that's gone. You don't have to be at practice at 6 a.m. You don't have to, eat this for breakfast because you have to work out for this long, and then you don't have to do this at lunchtime, and then, you don't have to be someplace in the afternoon, and your weekends are free because you don't have practice, or you're not traveling with the team, or you're not competing, and it's all of a sudden gone, and it's gone overnight. Like, it's not a slow taper off. It happens in an instant. Like, it's there and you're in it, and then the next minute it's done and it's over. And it can be an incredibly hard adjustment. I have gone through it a couple of times, like you mentioned. I don't want to say it was easier after Paris than it was after Tokyo. It was just different. Each and every time is different. And I think for each athlete, it's different. I think some people struggle with it more than others. And I think that's okay. I think it's a highly personal experience, and, how you choose to handle it and deal with it, is up to you and defined by you. I would say there are a couple of things. I would say initially, don't be afraid to ask for help. I think a lot of athletes, especially at our level, we have in our head that, like, we are programmed to drive for something, to drive for a goal, whether it's lofty or not necessarily on our own, but like with that intrinsic motivation. And I think there was a part of me that felt that if I asked for help or I reached out for help, that it was a failure. And so I had to kind of rework that thought process in my head and be like, no, it's not a failure. It's using all of the resources that I have available to me. And so asking for teaming up with ACT was obviously the best decision I ever made, because I got a job out of it. And I look back on it now and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I was ever hesitant to do it. I have no good reason why, other than I was like, I can do this by myself. I can do this. I've done way harder things. So I would say, don't be afraid to ask for help. And then have a lot of grace with yourself. It's a hard period in many people's lives, and how you experience is not going to be the same as how your teammate experiences it, or how someone else experiences it. And so have grace and be kind to yourself. It'll go a long way. I don't think it's that tangible or that black and white. I think it's a process, and I think it slowly evolves into building out your existing identity to include something that it probably hasn't included much of before. And for me, that looks like finding other outlets for things that I enjoy, finding a job, spending time with my friends and family that I may not have been able to spend as much time with. I think it's its own living organism. You just continue to live your life and take it day by day and see what it gives you, what opportunities present itself. And I don't know if there is a period where I'll be like, okay, check, I've successfully transitioned. I think it will just happen over time, and then I'll look back and I'll be like, wow, here I am. And 3, 5, 7, 9 years ago, I was competing at the Olympics.